I just want to welcome y'all to the Black Homeschools Podcast. This is our first week having 3 guests. You guys are our 3rd episode of the day. So I've had a full day of nonstop education, and it's been absolutely amazing. I'm really excited for our guests tonight. I got a surprise guest. I'm going to introduce her to y'all in a minute. But first, our main guest of the hour, this is Miss Karen Knox. And Karen Knox is an educator in the state of Tennessee. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. She is also my mama. She is my mama. So, and she loves it. She's my biggest cheerleader. So I want you to tell us a little bit, Karen, before we finish, before we get going into the podcast, tell us a little bit about who you are. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? Where did you come from? How'd you get here, Karen, from Carthage?
Good afternoon, everybody out there in video land, Facebook, and across the United States and the world. This is Karen V. Payne Knox at this time from Carthage, Tennessee, by way of Gordonsville, Tennessee. And I was born and raised in Smith County. My parents, Ruth Tillman Payne. Mom's from Alabama, dad's from Tennessee. They met at TSU, and I am their oldest child of 4. I have 3 siblings, Tillman, Janine, and Jimmy. And then I have 3 biological children, Kalecia, Jessica, and Oscar. And I have 11 wonderful grandchildren. A few names, too many to mention at the moment, but most of you know them through Kalecia, you know them through Jessica, and you know them through Oscar. I was born in 1958, and that was basically in the middle of a lot of turmoil in the United States for the civil rights. Our family had come from the farms of Smith County and the farms of Alabama. So you can imagine my mom picked cotton and my dad raised tobacco. And for them to get an education at TSU, they had to leave homes. My dad left home at 13 to get a high school education. My mom left when she was about 14 years old to 15, and she came to Nashville, Tennessee, and she went to Pearl High School. Then she returned back to Alabama, finished up at Trinity High School. Daddy stayed in Gallatin and finished at Union High School. And they were born, my mother, 1930, my daddy, 1927. So they were smack dab in the middle of the world, the United States, trying to get rights for African Americans, for Black people, and people of color. So our family was very instrumental in politics. Most people might not even know this, but my mom and dad were very instrumental in the rights for Black people and all people. We lived in a predominantly white community, so therefore the issues weren't very big as other places in the United States. Our parents were both educators. My dad was a PhD hours science teacher, and then he became an FFA teacher, Future Farmers of America. So he studied agriculture. My mother was a science teacher, biology, chemistry, physics, but then she ended up being an elementary school teacher. So I'm the daughter of educators. This was a time when schools were not integrated. I went to school in the 1st grade. We didn't have kindergarten. And at 6 years old, I was almost 6 and a half. My daddy didn't want to send me to school when they first started integrating because he wasn't at that school and he wasn't really sure. So I went to school with my mother, Ward Elementary School in Hartsville, Tennessee. It was all Black students and all Black teachers. And it was phenomenal. We had very, very strict teachers, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. Upon the 4th grade, my dad decided to take me to the school where he had integrated. My dad was the first Black to integrate Gordonsville High School. Matter of fact, he was the only African-American male to ever teach at Gordonsville High School. So I went there in the 4th grade. It was scary. The children were calling me all kind of different names to try to figure out what my name was. I just can remember not saying anything because I was afraid. But there were other Black children in my class, and they have been my lifelong friends. It was 6 of us in the beginnings, and then when we graduated from Gordonsville High School, it ended up being me and 5 boys who are my great friends and my brothers. Coming up through that time, I know the question was asked, how did this kind of formulate my thoughts? Well, being the child and the oldest child of educators, our dad and mom, worked the farm. My dad raised us on an 85-acre farm. And he, when his father passed, bought his home farm. And so we worked the farm. We worked the land. We had cows, chickens, pigs, and dogs. And we didn't think anything about Black people not owning land. We that was foreign to us. We didn't think about Black people not having a great desire to be educated. That was just kind of something that was kind of foreign to us. When our daddy first took us to the farm, a lot of people don't know this either, because when they meet me, they think that maybe I always had running water in my house, or I always had it easy, whatever. I swapped hogs. I raised tobacco. We didn't have running water in the house, so we hauled water. We didn't have a bathroom, so we had an outhouse. And most people might say, man, she's not old enough, is she, to remember that? But remember, I was born in 1958, so I'm 68 years old. And at that particular point in time, when he moved us to the country, there still wasn't water out in that rural area of Smith County. So a lot of things developed up my whole personality and being at the early stage. I read every book my parents had in the house. I looked at every book they had in the house. I taught myself to do all of my numbers, math, and everything they had, science and everything. So that's how I ended up originally as a pre-med student going to the University of Tennessee. So I was in that immediate family, the first to go to also a predominantly white college in University of Tennessee in Knoxville. My dad wanted me to be a doctor. And of course, I did know how to do doctorate or medicine because I started working at Smith County Hospital at 16 and a half years old. And at that time in the 70s, we could do everything. I was in on 10 deliveries. I know how to take stitches out. I know how to put catheters in, and I know how to prompt people for surgeries. And so I learned a lot by being a pre-med student for 2.5 years at UT and also working at Smith County Hospital for 3.5 years. I would come home for summers. So I decided after having a lot of fun at UT, I would become a science teacher. And that's kind of where we are now.
There's like some nosy girl in my podcast, and I don't even know how she got the link. Like, how did she get here? Who is that? Did you bring her?
I did.
Okay. Is that one of your students?
This is, yes, one of my students, but this is also my other child. And I'll be honest with the audience. The audience knows us. They know that I am sandwiched between Kalecia and Jessica. My life rotates around, and they always think Oscar has the upper hand, but they have to realize I have two amazing daughters, and they were my original helpers in my teaching career, because as I came to Rutherford County to teach, Kalecia wasn't even born. Jessica wasn't even born. So when Kalecia was born, I just started into teaching in Rutherford County. And so she, in all of her greatness, was a great teacher before they decided about a lot of things in education. Kalecia taught me a lot. And then Jessica came along, and Jessica, being born with a birth defect and having to deal with special needs, came right on in there. And then so I got to learn the best because I had the best at home. So people ask me all the time, influences of my, I guess, teaching methods and teaching strategies basically stand on me having Kalecia and me having Jessica, and them also teaching me some things. And then we would just always be open with each other. So that's Jessica, my
Hi,
second daughter.
Jessica. Thank you for joining us. I see you're at work, and I know you were on mute. Did you want to say something to the audience? Thank you, Jessica. That is my little sister, Jessica. And, I'm sitting here thinking, like, where did I obtain the education on special education, right? Where did I obtain that? Because I can sit at the table with experts and have these types of conversations because I experienced it at like 5 years old, right? I was able to see where someone with special needs gets all of the resources they need and then they thrive, right? So then to me, the example of special needs just really means you need resources and you'll be fine. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, Jessica. Jessica has started her own business. She has gone to college. She has been an amazing mother. She's gone viral on TikTok. She's got just as many social media followers as I do. And I'm just really proud of the woman that she's become. And I'm grateful that you snuck onto my podcast. I am. You're always welcome here. That's the thing about homeschool families. Everyone's welcome. And I appreciate mom for being organically yourself in parenting through special needs. So I know we're here to talk about homeschooling. And what I really want my community and homeschoolers and the homeschool community to see is a public school expert from every generation of the education system, because let's think about it. You have literally experienced the education system on the timeline that the education system has been created since.
Yes.
So you've got the full spectrum.
Yes.
You've got it. And you've already participated. So for us, what we want to understand is number one, what are we seeing right now that our kids need? It doesn't matter if they're in school or out of school, right? Because we're here talking to parents. This is a parent teacher conference. We want to we want to help the parents understand either deficits, strengths, gifts, tools, resources, any of those things. And I wanted to bring you along because I really believe you understand and you've seen where maybe socioeconomic issues have impacted the
Yes.
education system. And now
Absolutely.
we're in a big socioeconomic impact era, and the education system is being impacted. So I know that you're currently working in the space where you're mentoring families and helping parents go speak with their advisors for teachers or superintendents or principals. If you do IEP support, tell us a little bit about some of the things that you're seeing that parents could be preparing themselves with. What are some of the basic things the parents could be preparing themselves with?
One of the things I've noticed lately, and I'll piggyback a little bit on one of your earlier mothers or homeschool teachers that was on here. She was your second guest, I think, if my memory serves me right. But she makes a statement that is profound. It crosses all generations, and that is the first learning starts at home. Bottom line. And she said another thing tagged on with that is that you have to read to your child. You have to read to your child. I think what people have forgotten and just forgotten in general is if a child can't read and hasn't been taught to read and hasn't seen anybody reading, then they are already behind. They don't have to be special ed. They don't have to be homeschool. They don't have to be public school. When a child is 2, 3, 4, they should be being read to every single day, pointed to the pictures, letting them say what they see, because then you find out if they can see. Then you'll find out if they can hear. Then you'll find out that they'll have questions and that you can tell them that. Part of the problem in today's society is that people don't have time. They don't take the time. It doesn't have anything to do with where the child is going to go. Where is the child right now? Like, do you just take your child and sit them in front of the device? Now, if you do sit them in front of the device, is there something on there that is reading to them or they're reading it? Reading is the key to the base. That's your first leg. So everybody should be reading to their children. If you don't know how to read that well to yourself, you might say, "Oh, I'm not a good reader. I never was a good reader." That doesn't matter. Everybody can read little children books. Jane went to town. Jane saw a dog. Everybody can do that. That's what we learned on, and that's just about how boring it was, but that's what it said. We knew the word Jane, knew the word two. We knew, and then everything else was built on that. But and let your child explore. Don't hold your child back. Your child might be 2 years old and they might say, "Well, I can read this, I can read that." And you might say, "No, you can't read that, you're two." But they can, and they want to, and they will. So that's one of the things that I know that, I just see that people should read. Have books. Build your child a library. Make sure even if they, buy them the books that they can't tear up when they're little, and then buy them the books that they just really love. Buy what they like. If they like to look at the Minions, buy them the books all about the Minions and let them read it to you. If they like the books about Spider-Man, buy them the Spider-Man, football, George Washington Carver. Buy them books that they relate to. And anime. Anime is such a big deal now that all the children want to get in there. Let the children do what the children understand to do. If the child is nonverbal, you be verbal. If the child is special needs and has a trach and multiple handicap parts, read to your child. Read to the child. Find something. Play the songs and that they have the words to them. It doesn't have to be lullabies or anything like that, but something that's substantial, because you would be amazed that I can remember my mother and father now buying the encyclopedias. Now, I was a little girl when they bought the encyclopedias because, see, the people used to come around and sell the encyclopedias. So mom and dad said, okay, we're going to save the money. They were expensive. And they said, we're going to save the money next time they come around. We're going to get the encyclopedias. I read the whole encyclopedias. I read everything from A to Z. I looked at every picture. I looked at everything they were talking about in those books. Then I told it to my brother. Then my brother told it to my sister. Then my sister told it to my little brother. My little brother ended up being the smartest of all, truth be told. If you really, intelligence is beyond what most people think. They just think, nah, whatever. But everybody got more and more intelligent as time went on. And so it was just overcomers. Overcoming. How do you overcome something? So also, do not be afraid to ask. That's second. Do not be afraid. Pride gets in the way. Pride gets in the way. People say they don't know. You can send a child to preschool and have problems. You can send a child to public preschools and they may call you and say, well, little Johnny doesn't want to do anything, and little Johnny can't do this, and little Johnny, blah, 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 blah. So it starts about 2 years old. Everybody's got to get in tune and then have goals for your child. So what I find is that don't be afraid to ask. Find somebody, because if whatever you don't know, like there was a lot I didn't know. So even in raising my own children, even in raising you all, if there was something was going on with you, like the teacher said, oh, Kalecia, blah, 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 blah. And I would say, okay, where do I go? And then the teacher might say, Jessica, blah, 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 blah. Okay, where do I go? What resource do I need to go to? Where do I need to go? Who do I need to talk to? Sent Jessica to MTSU. I would have never known anything about that if I'd been in some kind of denial. And you went to Vanderbilt and got tested, and they talked to me about everything and told me, all that was going on with you. And you were going, this is your life. This is why you are as you are. Then they started writing books about it. And I already knew. And so when children come along, if you already know something, then you just already know. Everybody's kind of different, but reading is still a base. Not having pride is the other thing. Check out your resource. You'd be surprised at what people know and who can help and who is ready to help. So if you're having problems in the school system or out of the school system, even as homeschoolers, if you run into something where you're having a problem, you need to talk to somebody about it that has been doing the homeschooling. How did it work for them? Don't be afraid if something doesn't work the first time. Sometimes it takes a couple of times for things to work. I have some cases going on right now that in the last 2 years, a couple of them were people, society, children are bullying children. Most people keep their children doing homeschooling or whatever, but you can even have bullying going on in your siblings. Don't let the children bully each other. If you see bullying, people can't learn. That's one thing that I noticed in my classroom. I didn't let the children with that what I was trying to tell them. And then the parents have to be adults. Just be adults and take care of that kind of thing. So you want to read. You want to start reading to your child. You want to be with your child, like talk to your child. People used to ask me, how did I know so much about 150 children? Because that's how many I had a day, 150 children. And I knew pretty much something about every single one of them. And if there was something I didn't know, it was only because maybe they didn't tell me or we just hadn't gotten into it to talk about it. But anyway, and I told them, I told the people in the faculty meeting, I talked to them.
Mhm.
because I talk to kids. You know how there are people, adults, and my children will tell you all this. I talk to all kind of people, and I'm always saying, "Don't you remember this person?" But when I was in the school teaching to children, out of school teaching children, like today, I met two young people today. They were selling little candy things and taking donations. One little boy was at Oakland Middle School and he was taking up money for his AAU team. So I went up to him to make a donation, talk to him, get his name, his number. There was a young lady in the high school at Oakland. She's selling her little things because she's on flag football. And I said, "Oh my goodness, you're the enemy." And I explained to her why I was saying that because we go, "Roo-rah, Blackman." But she was very outstanding and she was very articulate. But just think about it. Nobody might not have spoken to them all day. So that's the other thing. Communication. Communication for parents. Communicate with each other. Communicate with people who have the resources to help you. For instance, if you go in a meeting and you don't know what they're talking about, or you're about to go in a meeting, you don't know what to talk to, find a parent, Leonze, a person who will come in and sit with the meeting with you. And especially for a person who needs to get an IEP or a 504, or even needs to talk to, have a consult about an ACT score, or maybe they need to get recruited and nobody's sending film to the recruiters, or nobody's talking to the recruiters, or nobody knows how to talk to the recruiters. And maybe sometimes you have to realize, even in our public schools, the people are not always available, but you have to be available. You have to
Mhm.
be your number one, like my daughter says, and all my children know, I am their number one cheerleader. I am trying to figure out what's going on with them. I don't care if it's, I might not agree, and I might not even like, have, or whatever. They're grown children now, but still, I got to be in there. I got to know. I got to know one way or the other. And then, I can make a decision, and we can have adult and grown conversations. So communication is very, very important. So you got to read, get her out of pride, find all your resources, check into everything. There's a lot of information on Google. Google is some people's best friend, and that's okay. And the other platforms that you can look things up on. Go to the libraries, take your children to the libraries, record your children. I think that's a fun thing. Record your children while they're reading. Let them hear themselves read, and let the children, older ones, read to the little ones. So in the house, as a homeschooling situation, everybody should be taking care of everybody, and everybody should be teaching everybody. And then in homeschooling, what I like the best about it, which I didn't think I would until my daughter started doing it, the best thing I like about homeschooling is that you're at home. That's one thing. You're safe, but you can teach that child every subject known to man, and then you get to do all the electives. That's the best part. The electives are just so much fun. You can go do the PE, you can go do the art, you can go do the music, you can go do the cooking, you can go do the sewing, and then the best of all, you can get out of that house and go run around and do the science.
Yeah,
You can
for
go
sure.
dig in the creek bed. That's what I see my grandchildren doing, and you can turn the rocks over and find the frogs. And that was something that, we're confined. When I was in public school, sometimes they would be getting on to me because I wanted to get outside and teach the children. I taught my science kids about weather. I teach everybody about weather. Some of you know that. Some of you know I'm calling you and checking on you and saying, "Okay, watch the weather." But I took them outside. How you going to teach children about weather if they're sitting in the classroom? I never could figure that out. But anyway, we went outside. We looked at the sky. I had them to measure the wind. And you know what? We won a contest one time. They had us to predict what we thought the weather was like when the Wright brothers sent their airplane up into the sky. Even my children might not know this. And we won third place in the nation because we could
Good.
predict the weather.
Yes, we know you
So
can predict it,
I
lady.
think that's my other calling. But anyway, I hope I've answered.
Meteorology.
I hope I've answered you, Kalecia, kind of what you were asking me for.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. Okay, yeah, because we wanna hear from someone who's kind of parented and taught and consoled, counseled, supported parents for the past couple of decades. You've been able to kinda transition with Okay, now we got to get technology. Okay, now we got to get, the device. So it's like things have evolved in the education system and also at home. And I think for this podcast, I really wanted a lot of the families who may be transitioning out of public school, because earlier we mentioned in our podcast, the Black homeschoolers are the largest growing homeschool population. We're moving the fastest pulling kids out of school. And we started that in 2020, and that was the COVID slash George Floyd movement. There were a lot of political,
Yes.
socioeconomical economic things that push that that snowball going. Of course, we had already been in the homeschooling world. So now fast forward to where we are getting ready to transform what it looks like to really be a support system for homeschoolers who are
Yes.
minorities across the nation, and then connecting everybody across the African diaspora. But what I want to hear from you too is how would you advise some parents who their kids were in public school last year, they're not going back. They wanna kind of solve some of the problems that were pointed out by the teachers, but they themselves may not know where to get started. What should they get from those teachers? What should they talk to their kids about, in the car on the way home, leaving school forever? What's the focus that these parents should start with when they're in that transition period?
Well, it's kind of like I have had a case where a child had too much anxiety to attend school. And sometimes when parents find out their children have too much anxiety, it scares them because they feel like they might not have the adequacy to help them. So parents have to be okay with listening to the child. And if the child says, well, the teacher just didn't seem like they cared, well, then that means you have to care, first of all. Then if they say, well, the teacher just was talking to the other children, but the teacher never asked me any questions, then you have to make sure you are focusing in and paying attention and things like that. So parents, it's okay. And like I said before, communication, not just with you and your child, but you got to communicate with other adults who have done the same thing that you're about to do. That's the thing. Don't just think you're on an island. Talk to other people who fact, that child was in public school last year, but I hear Lucy is saying she's going to take her child out too. So let me get with Lucy and then let us find the homeschool expert and the person who's already been doing it, and then get good co-ops. Find homeschool co-ops. There's some wonderful homeschool co-ops all around everywhere. And then, those who are in your area, Kalecia, who when you all were in Maryland, you were really bombarding it, telling people and talking to people. Now, what we find sometimes is people don't believe it. They don't believe it works. They're too scared or too whatever. Nah, that's probably not gonna work. I'm gonna do this a year and then I'm gonna send my child back. No, don't do that if that's not feasible for your child. Because your child may not be ever able to go back to public school. And you have to be okay with that. And so if you feel inadequate, there's so many resources. There's just too many to even name and think about. The experts know where the resources are. And the experts can hook you up and you can purchase your homeschooler. What did you do during pandemic? Everybody was homeschooled during pandemic, unless for some odd reason they went and took a chance on catching the pandemic. But either way, think about it. When we're just now coming out of a 6-year period from the pandemic, a lot of children really ended up with deficits because of that. You'll find that too with the testing, as I did with my student who had the anxiety. One-on-one with me, student was fine, perfect. Sometimes want to just sleep and not necessarily want to do something else. But I listen to the child. And if you tell me you're asleep, I want to sleep, I'm kind of sleepy, I didn't sleep too well. Well, then why am I trying to teach you some geography if you are asleep? That's just not the time. So we should know our own children. We should know our own children if that's what we're going to do. Now, if you can't do the teaching, That's one of the biggest things I think a lot of people have a fear. If you can't do the teaching and you're concerned about what will my child do all day. I have another case. I have a young man in Smyrna, Tennessee, and this young man, I had him years ago. Oh my goodness, he was maybe kindergarten or first grade, and he couldn't read. He was just couldn't read. So we worked on it and we tried to get him to read and everything. The parent loved me and everything. And so he was in public school. He went through public school. Do you not know a couple months ago they found me? And when I say that, they still have my number. And they needed me to come back and talk to this young man. And at this time he was being homeschooled. So, and he was very articulate. They had found out through the years that he was dyslexic. And they had done all the different things as dyslexic, but he wanted to know how to have better help going into high school. And the parent was going to put him back in public school. But one of the reasons now he was going back to public school is because he wants to play baseball, and I think he wants to play football. And he actually wants to go in the classroom now. He's stronger. He knows his strategies and he's ready. So come fall, I'll probably be meeting with Davidson County's group down there, some administrators, to work the student into their system. Things like that are different cases and everything. But if for some odd reason he can't cut it with the public school or something happens and the whatever's with him and whatever, and it's just, at least they know, the parents know how to just bring it back out and get his homeschool material. I mean, he's got some outstanding grades when he was telling me his grades and his subjects he was taking, and he's self-independent. So if you want to homeschool, you have to first, parents, be disciplined yourself. You have to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined yourself.
They don't want to hear that, mama. They don't want to hear that,
carve
girl.
out.
Now you know
I know
they
I'm
don't want
stepping
you
on
to
toes
say
like the
that.
preacher. Like the preacher says, I'm stepping on toes. But
Discipline.
you have to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined. I don't care what you're doing, whether you're homeschooling or public schooling. You got to be disciplined. Because if you got little Johnny and he's got to go to basketball practice at 6 o'clock in the morning, like my son had to go, then you better be disciplined. You better get on up there and get that child over there, especially if you want the child to be okay with what they love to do, you know. My poor little Oscar boy, we took him all around every which way. It's hard. It's a wonder. He learned to walk, because most of the time we had him in the carrier at 3 years old. Then we let him out of there and he's able to do what he's doing. But just like I said about my own son, my son will tell you right off, he doesn't want to do math. He didn't want to do math, and he didn't want to do reading. I think some of his worst days was his reading teacher and his math teacher, bless his heart. And if he's on here, I don't know if he's on here looking at me or not. I think he had a meeting, so he might not be on here. But either way, I had to get on to Oscar a lot about that reading. So I had to be disciplined too. And I can remember saying, I don't care what's happening. You got to read. You got to do this. You got to do that. Well, when he ended up in law school, he was like, Mama, thank you, because you made me read, especially when he had to read about 500 pages in one day and all of that, and studying for that test. So I'm telling you, it's like hard, yes, but it's like ACT tutoring. Oscar said, Mama, you always give me the book and you tell me to go upstairs. Now you sit here at the table and you talk to all my friends and you go over the stuff with them. And I looked at him and I thought, whoa. He says, I said, oh, okay, don't go upstairs. Sit right here. Let's get this book. Let's get this. So we did. And I'm just telling you, you probably can ask me most anything. And I got a scenario with my own children's situation that has to do with any of that. So, parent has to be, don't be afraid. And please talk to other homeschool parents and don't get in a denial. Trust what they're saying. My daughter, Kalecia, has 2 college students. One I'm feeding all summer and one I have fed half the summer. And they are doing well. They could probably go to the college and be the professors. That's from their teaching from their mom, whatever. So I had a little bit in there. I threw a little rich in there a couple of times, Hey, here's something, tutoring them on this and that. But my daughter has just, who homeschools 8 kids? So if Kalecia is telling you something, you need to listen. If she's trying to explain something to you, you need to listen, because I listen to her. When people ask me all the time about different things, I said, I listen to my daughter. My daughter gets on my case about this. Jessica comes in, she gets on my case about this. Today, Jessica was on my case about drinking water. So, it never stops. You got to really pay attention to your kids.
That's discipline. Look at discipline coming back to punch you with your kids. God
I know.
dang it. Golly, it never ends.
No. And
I
Oscar,
know.
Attorney Butler will say, "No, mama." And when he says that, I have to kind of come into factors,
I
you
know.
know.
I know. My son, the one that you have right now, when he corrects the environment, everybody just kind of says, all right, well, I guess that's righteousness because he's done the work. He's done the work. He's done the
Yeah.
work. Okay. So I have, a lot of parents who have high schoolers who are getting ready to transition into this freshman year of college, going into the acceptance of college. Maybe I do have a freshman in college, but I want to talk about that 17 to 20 age education support because a lot of families don't even know what to think to get them that far. So when you can talk to a teacher about it, sometimes it's a little bit helpful of milestones, right? So what milestones, what would you be looking for? How would you be encouraging these parents at the age of I'm a senior in high school, I may have college as a path, or I may have tech, a tech or hands-on kind of job, industry job as a task. I don't know whatever I decide to do, but that age where you're still very heavily involved. Maybe they want to go to junior college. Maybe you're supporting them in that way. What are some of the things that you would want to give them as a thought process and milestones that they should be looking for?
Well, we used to just wait till a person was a junior in high school. Everything used to be based on when the child was a junior in high school. My philosophy has changed on that in the last 5 years. Start
Hmm.
preparing your child for college if they're going to college, technical school, whatever, to work in the home business, family business, work in a business, whatever they're going to do when they get out of high school. Start preparing them at 14. Freshman in high school. Do not wait till they're a junior or senior anymore because whether in public school or homeschool, it doesn't matter. When they move into that 14-year-old age, start preparing them for being out of the home if that's where they're going to be on a college campus. You need to start at 14. Do not wait till 15, 16 or anything like that because when 17 hits and they don't have that 2-year prior kind of readiness, we're noticing that they just flounder. They just, and by no real means of their own, but you also got to know the maturity of your kid. Sometimes they're just not mature. Sometimes it takes some time for them to, catch up with themselves. But if they wait till they're 17, or if you wait till they're 17 and you don't know, like I ask children at 14, or I'll ask them at 6th grade, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do when you get out of high school? You could pull it back to 6th grade. Most of my children knew what they wanted to do by 6th grade, 8th grade, or I know all of them had some idea of something kind of they wanted to do, and they were pretty much aware of what they didn't want to do. And so, or where they wanted to go or didn't want to go to do whatever they wanted to do. We were big athletes, so we were athletic arenas. We were trying to look at getting scholarships, and you can't wait till the last minute. If your child is an athlete, but their grades are not good, I don't care if you're homeschool or public school, it's not going to cut it. You've got different hoops, I guess you could say, that you got to jump through or whatever. But you definitely need to start by the time they're a freshman. Let's get ready. Let's prepare. Now, you may prepare and you may say you're going to the University of Georgia and your child is all getting ready, everything getting ready. You might go visit the University of Georgia and they can't stand it and you can't either. They don't want to be that far from home and you don't want them to be, and y'all might have a change. And then they might say, well, I want to come home and work in the summer. You got to be okay with what's kind of going on. When I changed my major my sophomore year in college, I was afraid my daddy was going to, because I just didn't know. He had just been drilled in me to be a doctor all my life. But I wanted to then think about being an educator, just like they were. And they were very like, oh, right. Oh, okay. What do you think you can do? Do you think you can get out in education? You think you can do? They just talked to me and we just went through it, and first one thing and the other. You got to be okay with that, because I've had a student within the last 3 years went to a major college. Very, very, very good student. Went to a college, was on it, or whatever. All of a sudden got the opportunity to get out of that college and go to a technical program, a certification program to become a nurse, and wanted to be in the nursing program at this particular college, but oh Lord, it was just like, woo. And, but they came home, went through the certification program, and now they're working for the major hospital here. So, and the parent was like, okay, okay. And then too, it helped with the finances because you can't wait till the last minute if you don't get scholarships or anything like that. You got to start looking for scholarships when they're freshmen now and looking for where's the money going to come from. My son was going to go to law school. He came in and said, I'm going to law school. I was like, how? I was really, my daughter, she said she was going to culinary art school. And she'll tell you right out, Kalecia will tell you. I was like, how? Literally because, I was a teacher. Teachers didn't make any money. We didn't make any money. We're still not making any money. I mean, it was just a factor. You just had to learn how to budget and had to keep it in the road and be smart. Be smart. So you want to be smart about saving and getting ready, but you also want to be smart about really what your child wants to do. So at 17, 18, 19, and 20, it is too late to be trying to make a decision about really anything. Now, if you get on a college campus and your child is just like, let the child get out of there. Go to another college or something, or just let them rest or whatever. When my son came out of undergrad, he didn't go straight to law school. First of all, he had to study, so he couldn't go straight to law school. And then the other thing was he had work, so he went to work. So let the child go to work. You may find that your child wants to go to McDonald's and work, and they might be the best manager at McDonald's for that summer. Then start talking to them again and say, hey, you want to go back to school or not go to school? Maybe they want to rise up and go to McDonald's. I hear McDonald's managers are making some good money. So let them do what they can do because they may have the knowledge in their heads to be the best whatever. We used to teach people, be the best ditch digger you can be because everything now you have to learn how to do it anyway. If you go out there on a construction site, they're going to teach you everything, and maybe that's what the child wants to do. I got students in the military. I got some that didn't go to college. I got some that went to learn how to do automotive. I've got some top automotive students. They didn't go to college. They went to the automotive technology, which was, learning. And I got people that are in all kinds of certification programs. Then I got some playing basketball overseas. And so they didn't necessarily go to college, but they went to play basketball. They maybe went to college 1 year, 2 years, went overseas, played some ball. They're still playing some ball. We've got students all over the nation. I've got some doctors. I've got some lawyers. I've got some teachers. I've got some ditch diggers. I've got some superintendents of school, like the county I live in. I've got some assistant superintendents. My student teacher of Stewartsboro Elementary School is the assistant superintendent of Rutherford County Schools. So, it can be a vast, and then culinary arts. My daughter is a super chef. She can chef anywhere in the world. So she went to college. She said, I'm tired. I want to do this. I want to go there. And I'm like, okay, so what would I have been if I'd been the kind of parent like, no, you're going to go down the whatever and you got to, no, don't do that. So get your child ready. And then if there's changes, be flexible to, work with your child. So yeah, start at 14. Don't let them go past 14. They don't know what they're going to do.
Thank you so much. All right. So right now you're in Tennessee. You're doing tutoring. You do a lot of parent services, resources. We've created an opportunity for the Black Homeschools to have you as one of our resource teachers. So if anybody needs a resource, they can reach out to you through our website. What are some things that you are planning to do in the next few months? Are you working with students getting back to school? Where are you? What do you got going on?
Well, I have a student in Smyrna. I have a student from Smyrna. I have a student in the high school he's in Smyrna, but he's going to the baccalaureate program through Oakland, and he wants to be a film director. So that student's mother just a few minutes ago picked up ACT packet to study out of my mailbox. So that's my summer project. Then I have a rising sixth grader who wants to play basketball, and she wants to get on a basketball team for her upcoming middle school, wherever that may be, wherever the mother decides they're going to be. this fall, and she's basically having a deficit in math. Most of my students that I tutor have deficits in math. I have a couple of students I've had to table for a little while due to the fact that I'm the 100% caretaker for my husband, who is a Vietnam veteran. And I am proud to say that when I met my husband, he did not have his high school diploma. And I called the Board of Education in Cannon County and said, I am married to a veteran who did not receive his high school diploma. And at 70 years old, the superintendent of Cannon County Schools sent my husband his diploma. So that's like one of my just
You love
greatest.
it.
Yes. So, I guess as a teacher, always a teacher, once a teacher or whatever. But I'm extremely proud of Tony Knox because he has some more certifications than I can imagine. And he's always talking to me about certifications for everything known to man. And he also supports my teaching. It's very important to have somebody when you're retired, and we're both retired, to be supportive of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish and everything. So my summer basically consists of hoping to get to attend the homeschool conference. I'm looking forward to that in Washington, D.C., trying to get myself together for that, and seeing all the people and being supportive to my daughter and my son, my daughters and my son. And Miracle, Kevin are at the Blackman schools. That's where I taught, Blackman Middle School, for 18 years. I taught at Stewartsboro Elementary for 10, and I taught at Smyrna Middle for a year. Taught at Union Heights Elementary School in Smith County for 2. So I was 28 years in Rutherford County, 2 years in Smith County. So I had my 30 years in the state. And then I was 10 years a substitute teacher. And that's why I try to tell people all the time. When I first came to Rutherford County, I didn't have a teaching job. I had to live here 9 years, but I subbed. I subbed while I worked at Nissan. I subbed while I worked for Mid-Cumberland. I subbed. I always tell parents also, if something doesn't work out for your child, say they don't get that score, or even after getting in college and they don't get the score to get to med school, because I do have a student who didn't get to go to med school or went to med school. I have one that went to med school but couldn't pass the exit exam. So we're still working on transition. So we got some people that were still kind of trying to. I'll be glad when they take testing away. I know that might sound a little weird, but I'll be glad when they take testing away, because I am not an advocate, never really have been an advocate, because they've done so many things and injustices to people about testing them to see what are you trying to see. The ACT doesn't really measure anything anymore. It just kind of, makes people real stressed out. My students are usually stressed out about it. Everybody would be stressed out about the ACT now because it's full of trigonometry and calculus. And most just regular students are not taking that. So I've got my work cut out for me this summer. I don't have any administrators to work with yet, or anybody. I've got to go for an IEP meeting or a 504 meeting or a behavior meeting. I do go to schools for people who might be having some behavior problems, or somebody's, I've even gone to school because the teachers are being mean to a student. So, and I had to call the principals in for that. That's one thing I'm not going to tolerate ever, never have, never will. As an adult and as a former teacher in a public school, I saw a lot of discriminations against children. And that's one of the things I'm definitely going to get more into politics a little bit, or the political arena. I've kind of declared myself as a person who is not either Democrat nor Republican nor independent nor anything. I'm just a person who's going to go in there and fight for some justice.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. But look, I mean, I'm just a product of my environment. You know what I'm saying? I guess. So I guess the last thing I want to lead with is, last year, you got to attend our first annual Meet Me at the Museum field trip. And I think that was that your first field trip with us as the Black
Yes.
Homeschools?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So tell us, because we want the families to know why they should come. Right now we have 85 families RSVP'd for this field trip. So you
Very
tell me,
good.
why should they come?
Yes. Well, like I've said before, if you're going to homeschool, you need to get hooked up with the homeschool director. And whatever the homeschool director has planned and programs and everything, You might need to run and get in there. Save your money if there's any cost to anything and get there. Here I was as an adult, 67 years old, and otherwise I might not have gotten to go to the African American Museum, just basically get up and go or whatever. But I went with them and it was just amazing and organized. You want to get with a group that's organized, and this group is organized. So maybe you can turn that number from 85 into 170, and
Yeah.
that would be great. So definitely get involved. Go. Don't hesitate. I'm telling people now, run. If you're doing homeschooling and you know homeschooling people or you want to do homeschooling, just run to it. Run to it. Run to see what they're doing. If they're going on a field trip, that's a major field trip. All children, it doesn't matter what color you are or what nationality you are, all children ought to get to go to that and experience and really see that part of history or any other thing that the homeschoolers are doing.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. You've answered so many questions. I know there are a lot of people that are going to love this resource. If you guys are looking to speak with Miss Knox class, if you need to book an IEP meeting, if you want to get a consultation, she's got her consultation appointments on the website, www.theblackhomeschools.com. You can go up there and you can make a appointment with her, and then also follow her on social media. She is on Facebook and Instagram. So if you're looking for Karen Knox, I'll make sure we put her social handles in the comments. And we're so excited that we have her as a resource in our community. She is a major resource for me. I'm gonna let you know for a fact I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, people. Literally. So I appreciate you, Mom. Thank you so much for always being the best teacher on earth. And I'm just trying to be the best too. I'm so grateful. I know a lot of people don't get the type of support from their family when they choose homeschooling. So I just want to say publicly in front of everybody, thank you. My mom has never looked at me left or right when I said I wanted to homeschool. So I just appreciate you for always supporting my crazy ideas. Now it's transformed into a total movement across the world. And if you wouldn't have said yes, we wouldn't be here. So thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Shout out to my sister Jessica for crashing the party. Oscar's too busy and famous and rich for us, so he couldn't make it. We already know where he's at, somewhere golfing in the Netherlands. Who knows where he's at? But thank you, Mom. I know. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks, I guess, in Washington, D.C.
Thanks to your husband for setting us all up.
Okay,
Your support
okay.
system.
Your
To my
favorite
son in
man.
love.
My gosh, y'all. She love her some Robert.
Yes,
Yes. Thank you, Robert. He is the man. He is. Thank you, babe. You're so nice. You do it all. My God, that is so funny. I know he's going to be mad at me because I am all over the place with my windows. Okay, I'm going to end the live.